Could the next recession be upon us? This is Mike Maloney, and it looks like there are some bad omens in the U.S. economy. This is a chart of consumer revolving credit. And so this is basically outstanding credit card balances and stuff, things like that. And what you see is credit expansion in green lines that are above the zero line, signaling the monthly growth, and then credit contraction is the red lines below the zero line. And this is the financial crisis of 2008 and that recession. And another way of looking at this is the same monthly growth and contraction and growth, and now we've got a contraction. But this is what it adds up to. The red line here is the total amount of consumer credit outstanding, and you see this constant growth, and then it peaks and levels off and starts to contract. And what's interesting, if we go back to this chart again, you'll see that the recession of '08 started before the actual contraction. It started as the growth in credit started to decline. And so this is the area right here where the beginning of 2008, the total amount of credit outstanding was growing. It just started growing at a slower and slower pace for a while. And then once it stopped, the contraction was vicious. It was the global financial crisis of 2008, a worldwide banking meltdown, basically. And then we go along and we come out of it, and we don't have a whole lot of growth in 2011 and 12, but then we've got this continuous growth here. Now, this one line, you have to ignore this. This is a correction in the method that they calculate all of this. And so in 1 month, they made a large correction, and it causes this anomaly here. So in your mind, what you need to do is forget about that blue line and take this red line here and paste it to the end of this part of the red line. And you get this continuous growth, just like we had back here in 2007, where there was this continuous growth in credit, and then it peaked and leveled, and it's actually starting to contract now. So this is a very bad sign, but if we take a look at what's happening with corporate debt as a percentage of the economy, that's the yellow line. How much corporate debt is out there compared to the size of the GDP of the United States, and then the default rate on that debt. And what happens is you see that very often the default rate is declining while debt is still expanding. So you've got this period where the default rate is falling, but debt is still going up. And here's an example of it here before 2008 of the debt going up while the default rate declines, but then that eventually reverses and the default rate increases suddenly, slowing down the growth of debt, and then as the defaults get charged off, there's less and less debt, and we go into things like the financial crisis of 2008. But what you got to take a look at here is the spread, the difference between where the charge-off rate, the default rate, and the size of the debt compared to the economy. And right now, we're at one of the greatest spreads. I mean, this is a pretty huge spread here, but look at what we've got right now. And what this says to me is that when something happens, this is just going to be absolutely vicious. There is a huge discrepancy, this spread between these. And so the amount of territory that has to be covered, the amount of ground that has to be made up, this is huge. Here's another way of looking at it. This is credit card charge-off rates for small banks and big banks. And right now it's small banks that are starting to take the hit. But if you look, they usually lead as far as an indicator goes. And then this is creditors having a hard time collecting the money they are owed. This is a report from the credit managers. And what you see here is this is 2008, but look at the decline that we just had. It's enormous. So this is a signal that this might correct next month or the month after, but this could also be the signal that the recession has started. Remember, it's a trailing indicator. The Federal Reserve has to have 2 consecutive quarters of economic contraction before a recession is declared. And so you don't find out about a recession until at least 6 months, but probably 9 months later. Thank you very much for listening. If you got anything from this, please like it and share it, and we'll see you next time.